Welcome to the wonderful world of math. Now, before you say, I was told there would be no math in marketing. Well, the good news is there are all kinds of tools that can help us do all the math we need to do. The bad news is, while there are all these tools to help us do the math, none of them will help us understand what that number really means. Think of it this way. In a football game, there are amazing tools to help us measure every statistic of the player's effort, the downs, and the distance traveled by the ball as one team tries to battle another team to push it down the field. But if there is no shared understanding of what that progress means, well, then there will be trouble. If one team thinks 10 yards equals a successful first down, but the other team doesn't believe that, and there's no rule that states that, well, then there won't be any point in playing the game. This is a core challenge for marketing makers. Why? Well, because in marketing, there are no standard industry-wide rules for what defines success. The measurements or metrics that mean success to you may mean failure to me. In other words, we can all agree on how long a yard is in my marketing game. And in my football game, 10 yards equals a first down. But in another colleague's game, in a different industry, well, 10 yards might be a complete failure. This is the problem of marketing, and it always has been. Marketing cannot be mathematically proven with rules. So in a universe where marketing can never be mathematically proven, what good is math? Well, as it turns out, it's immensely valuable. It just needs one thing: a shared sense of what success looks like. In business, what's always true is that if we don't know why we're measuring something, we'll always settle for less of what we want. And if we don't all have a shared desire of what we want, we can be sure we'll never find it. Shared objectives without analytics are visions without a map. And analytics without objectives, well, that's like a map with nowhere to go. If we start with a shared objective and what a common understanding of meeting it looks like, well, then we can define it with math. That's when the numbers have a purpose, and more importantly, meaning. And that's when we all know we're winning a game that's actually fun to play. Welcome to episode 10 of Marketing Makers, the series for those that make marketing work. I'm Robert Rose, and I'm your host. Whether you're an independent consultant, a director at a Fortune 100, a newly appointed CMO, we are all marketing makers. And this month, we're talking about setting objectives and analytics. Let's get to the reason we need the tools to help with our math and really develop a meaningful framework for measuring our marketing challenges. Welcome to Marketing Makers. Plus 10 to 30, 35 plus, but, oh, hi, how are you? How are you doing? I'm just sitting here trying to do some math in my head with regarding some, chemicals I'm going to put into some pots. I mean, what could possibly go wrong, right? 1/3 plus 2/3 plus, I don't know how many 3/3. Maybe I'll just stop for a minute. I'm really bad at math. I mean, there's bad at math, and then there's me. So for some reason, my math teachers, well, they never liked the answer of, these equations are really up for interpretation. They didn't like that answer very much for me. And I have to say that as a marketer, well, I still hear that phrase a lot these days. So many businesses that I talk to say that their analytics tools, they're really just sort of interpretive dance, if you will, for how we're doing our marketing. As I've told my clients before, you show me your Google Analytics, and I'll tell you any story you'd like to hear. More time spent on the site, Well, of course, they're spending more time reading your content. It's not that they simply can't find what they're looking for and eventually give up. Or more visits? Of course, those visits are relevant and all of the things that you want with your sweet spot audience. It's not that thing that you just accidentally ranked for Google for that's completely irrelevant. Anyway, none of this is the fault of analytics tools. These are simply the tools that help us sort out all the measurement. They do the math. And you might think this is a modern problem since the beginning of digital and all of that, but this has been the way, quite frankly, it's been forever. If we go all the way back, modern marketing, it really started about 120 years ago. And you know what? It all started with a problem. You see, the problem was the question that might be a little familiar to you these days: what's the value of marketing? You know, in the early days of marketing, marketers were considered middlemen, the problem between the product or service maker and the buyer. The value between those two things was a simple question: how do I shorten the time between when my product is finished and the time it gets into the hand of a customer? Why? Because if my product is sitting on a shelf or in some other way unused, then it's worthless. It only has value when the consumer has purchased it. Thus, anyone or anything that lengthens that time is not adding value to my business. And so from the very beginning, marketing was always more valued when it was more efficient. Anything that was seen as friction to that process was seen as waste. Enter math. In fact, many of the early marketing textbooks argued the value of marketing could be calculated as a utility using math. The pros were that marketing middlemen could sell greater quantities of product and find new markets for it. The cons, of course, were that it added a cost, time, and money to the process. Calculating the balance between those two things became the passion of people who would judge the value of marketing and how much value it was creating for any business. And marketing is unique in this sense. I mean, think about it for a moment. Nobody says, well, let's look at the accountants and calculate whether or not balancing the books actually adds value to the business. No. Marketing has always been considered something that we don't really want to do if we don't have to. So let's do as little of it as we have to make our business valuable. Now, of course, in the pre-digital era, our marketing analytics and the math involved came in the package of what we called marketing research. In the 1930s, we began to see polling, for example, become a new feature of finding out how products and services were selling and how marketing campaigns were actually working out there. A guy by the name of George Gallup was a pioneer in this area in scientific polling techniques, and of course you know the poll that he's named after these days. And he would ultimately have one of the most famous polls named after him because he made his mark correctly predicting through his market research and analytics that Roosevelt would beat out Alfred Landon. And you go, who? Alfred Landon? Yes, the candidate for the presidency of the United States. In the 1940s, we got focus groups, which would provide both qualitative and quantitative data and analytics on customers and their intentions to purchase our products or react to our specific marketing campaigns. In the 1950s, we got what was called motivational research. This type of research introduced what we might call the brand research today, where pioneers took a much more psychological approach to consumer research and said that every product has a soul and is purchased not only for the purpose or the utility or the value it provides, but for what value it embodies in our psychology, the values that reflect our own image of ourselves. Then we got even more sophisticated in the 1960s when we got into predictive statistical techniques. This is when marketing really met math, and computers started to help us do what's called conjoint analysis, helping marketing managers make decisions about the potential for markets or products to sell based on statistical analysis. Then in the 1970s and 80s, we got advanced marketing segmentation and the measurement of planned behaviors. This was the beginning of trying to link actions taken by consumers and their changes in the attitudes and their intentions. Again, why? Efficiency. And then in the 1990s, we got what was known as digital analytics, and primarily with web analytics. We began to track and measure every single transaction that happens on digital media, hits, web page views, traffic, referral sites, all of it math in the name of an efficient process. You put all these things together over the last 100 years and now bring it into the latest, into 2021 and artificial intelligence, and you can start to see how all of this starts to fit together into why we put so much emphasis on this math. Though, transaction, measurement, qualitative data, semantic analysis, all on the content we consume, trying to determine our intention to purchase a product, it's possible now to bring all of these things into dashboards using technology that can infer so many different things, from relevance to engagement level to intent to purchase likelihood to loyalty, even levels of evangelism. Analytics have become the touchstone of a marketing strategy, a single source of algorithmic truth when it comes to setting the priorities of our activities so that we can spend less and less and less and become more and more and more efficient. Analytics has become our truth. Except, of course, it hasn't. It just hasn't. It hasn't become that truth. It all goes back to a shared understanding. Marketing simply can't be mathematically proven. The first problem we have is that different analytics tools, of course, provide different kinds of data based on different kinds of calculations, and all of that based on shared definitions of whatever we put into the calculator. For example, what really is a visit to your site or a bounce from our site? What does engaged really mean? Or what does a video view really equate in terms of value? How about an impression? The second challenge is actually even more critical, and that's the shared understanding of context of that analytic measurement. Put simply, in order for analytics to mean anything, we have to have a shared objective that is not only shared, but understood by everybody. This is something that it seems at its surface would be something we should all do just inherently. We should understand this, right? But it's actually quite rare. It's not that businesses don't have goals or objectives. They do. And it's not that most, or at least many businesses and the marketing teams that make up those businesses don't have goals or objectives. They do. But it's so rare that these marketing objectives are designed with a specific set of shared metrics that can be measured by analytics and define what success of the business looks like. Put really simply, we have a team. And we all have a goal to win the game. And we all know that means scoring more points than our opponent. But we don't have a common understanding of what a field goal means, or a touchdown, or a handoff, and therefore, nobody can agree if we've scored enough points until we've either lost or won the game. And if we lose, well, it's too late to fix it. We can't go back and replay the game. And if we somehow win, nobody knows why we won. So what's the answer? Well, as it turns out, the answer is to identify and architect our shared objectives by defining the measurements of success, and do so in a way that actually creates a crystal clear and unambiguous connection to the measurements we're taking. That's when we can design the right analytics to give us the insight we need, when math becomes meaningful. Employ the power of SEMrush, trends and competitive intel. Enter your rival's website to get insights on their digital marketing, from revealing their market share and growth trends to uncovering key traffic drivers and top products and offers. Go to semrush.com/trends. That URL again is semrush.com/trends.